What happens when that doesn't happen? We can extrapolate that just on the basic level. We're marginalized people, we're niggas. One of the weirdest things about me is like when we get into the groups of our, ideologies, there's the hope we have. There's the hope we have when we talk about the world as it could. Well, we gotta help people because, like, human kindness, and that's the expected. We're all human, and you adding together that we're in a society, so we need to care about each other, right? And then you get this weird fucking thing where you have some billionaire that's like, I don't care if the village, dies of dehydration. I want my money now. And it's like, well, how do you fucking figure that away? It's because reality isn't Barney style like it was taught to us. The thing I want to talk about is the reaction to that. Because we all know reality isn't the storybook we were taught as kids. But now we have to deal with, in the middle of the actual literal fucking apocalypse, human extinction takes 1 million fucking years. Congratulations, we got that going. Now we have to live with like the repercussions of a society on a mass scale, realizing that A plus B doesn't equal C. Sometimes it gets error. Sometimes you don't get the answer. Sometimes you can do everything fucking right, but then that shit just doesn't work out. As marginalized people, we all understand that perfectly. Yeah, we should be treating each other well out of the human kindness of our heart, but sometimes that just don't happen. Sometimes people are a little bit shit. When it comes to the men issue and the reason Shu made her video and FD made her video, the thing I keep seeing being missed is like they keep asking the question, why is the onus put on men? Why is the onus put on men? Simply put, you have a decision to choose which way you go down. I like the tweet she read in her fucking video, like, I'm fat, disgusting, and a virgin, but I'm not a Nazi. Yes, because this person made the choice. That's the point. We can't walk you down the road and hold your hand, but you gotta choose to be a decent person. And one of the problems that I've noticed, especially with incels and people, men specifically going through loneliness, is the thing they seek isn't the answer. They don't seek, how do I become a more social person? How do I open up and allow others in? How do I escape this mental black box that I've trapped myself in? No matter who's, because like,
may I interrupt you right there?
Go ahead.
Because you just brought up something that was crazy to me. Because I remember one of my camp counselors back at the boys club, his name was Jason. I just ran into him a couple of, I think it had to have been maybe before the pandemic or maybe a year into it, whatever. And I had looked at him and I was like, yo, is that Jason? And I like began to tell him as fast as I could, yo, it was because of a lot of the things that you used to say around us, especially us all being boys, that like you was really humbling us and you was trying to teach us about like the world at large, but like we usually don't have those type of people. And I wanted to let him know that I had understood it and I had made something of myself, where especially at that time I was doing, yeah, it was definitely 2019. I was doing weddings and everything. And when you had said that a lot of what men aren't taught is how do I, it reminded me that like for a lot of people who have my frame of thought, our frame of thought, let's put it even that way, that is a question that we constantly ask. And it's become so commonplace that I can't envision my world without those questions like ever being answered. Like to wrap this back into like me as an adult, the question for me was never like, why should I ever involve myself with a trans person? That's like what my other friends would call gay. To me, it's how do I show this person that I care about them beyond the social contract of the identity that you now wear? And for me, I just feel like, especially now that we're bringing up the video, that's like what I'm missing. It's like aggravating to see somebody draw these random conclusions from random niggas on the internet just saying shit to say shit when it's like, yo, here are two people who can dive into it with you. The accessibility to these questions being answered in a way that at least could further the conversation away from that weird shit is always accessible to them, and they choose not to do it, which forces us to do it. But since they're not talking about what we're talking about, it just flow, it starts to, do that stasis shit. And that's my frustration with this conversation.
Well, for me,
Go ahead.
because I look at both sides of this conversation, and I have problems on both. With the conservatives and the manosphere, it's just about everything. With the leftist side, and it's a very small thing. It is like the needle in the back of a giant. I cannot stress how small it is. But even you just did it. And it's really weird to say this because this is a part where I will agree on shoe on head with this.
Go for it.
I think especially a lot of individualistic nations where we see a lot of this loneliness shit happening, I think especially on the left side, there is the thing we do that conservatives have done as well where, well, we take ourselves. I'm not a fucking Nazi. I'm a weirdo and a creep and a loner, but I'm not a fucking Nazi. We take what we view as good, our individualistic experiences, how we view the world, and we hold that up on the pedestal as if that's the thing to be. When in reality, a lot of these lonely dudes, yeah, they might end up being Trump voters or like actual terrible people or whatever the fuck. The thing is, for these people to actually help themselves and come out of whatever depression, like actually become good people, it's not about how us as the society wants them to change. It's about them helping themselves, because that in itself is a barrier that's going to have to be broken as they're going through the healing process. There's going to have to be that limit of when they go through this process. Am I becoming the best person I can be, or the right person that I can be for whoever, is reading this or seeing this message? They're gonna have to come to that decision themselves, and then having to compare it to, everyone you took your advice to, that kind of puts up, again, that comparison. Well, I'm not being the best I can be because, Paradigm said I should be doing this, that, and the other, and, I'm still kind of flawed. I'm not doing this, that, and the other. That's a realm of beating yourself up.
Okay, can I add something to that then?
Yeah, sure.
So I had mentioned earlier the Big Brother program. Do we need to have that point where the reflection of do we need American History X? Does that make sense of what I'm getting at?
Explain it a little bit.
Okay. So the common belief, they've been trying to rewrite this shit for so fucking long, and I hate it. The common belief is that the only reason why the lead felt Ed Norton felt like he needed to make a change in his life is because he was watching his little brother go through his same pathway and what he was doing, and then ended up getting that motherfucker killed. And then he was like, we gotta look at each other past our color, and my father's a racist, and that's where I learned it from. And it's a brilliant story, but at the same time, I feel like we need that literal. I need you to see what you look like from the outside. I think I got a lot of that at a young age.
I'll say it.
Go ahead.
I'll say it like this, because I recently did pretty much that, and it's one of the things I think I'm good at. Where my brother was in a not so good relationship. He was in a situation that wasn't good for him, and struggling to find his way through it over the course of a couple of weeks. I just kept asking him just very basic questions, you see this pattern of events, don't you? You agree they're why to put up with it? I think, I'm not necessarily sure if it's the Big Brother program or what, but there has to be a point where people are allowed to have bad ideas. People are allowed to have the bad ideas, and then they're allowed to work through them. But I think a lot of people need to understand that working through these bad ideas isn't as simple as me clicking, the hang up button on this call and then coming back with a sunny disposition and being like, well, I've changed, everybody. It's me, your leftist friend, TyroTyrant. That's just not gonna fucking happen overnight. It's something that takes years, especially when we're talking about people healing themselves. It is a long, arduous process. So especially in the community space that we're in, when we're talking about shoe on head and Voshes, I think there needs to be a thing where we all step the fuck back. Because the people who need the help, the actual incels and manosphere people who are taking these advice, I pointed it out in chat and I'll say it again, a lot of what these people are dealing with isn't just the loneliness and depression that we all kind of deal with because capitalism has this horrendous boot on us. It is the expectation that because capitalism has failed in the unique ways it has, and society has gone that Something is wrong, but they're taking that blame and they're choosing their individual targets to blame. You cannot sit here and tell me with a sincere bone in your body that you know how to stop people from blaming others, because I'll call you a fucking liar and I'll point you out.
Oh, you don't literally mean me. I was like,
no.
I'm sorry, but you know I do that same shit when I be talking about
hold on, paradigm. Hold on. I mean, literally you. I mean, any of these three. I mean, any person who actually cares about a topic. So yes, that includes you.
Oh, of course.
If you're going to sit here and tell me that you have the answer to prevent incels from taking that hurt and that level of betrayal in the society they held so dear, and that they're going to blame someone, if you tell me you have the ability to stop that and you know the answer, I'm calling you a bold-faced fucking liar. No one does. Everyone I have talked to.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think now this is my disconnection, and this is kind of my little touch grass moment. Is that the general profession around these spaces? Is that they have the answers?
From what I can see, the way these people talk, the way they hold these ideas so strongly, it's the only way. These people aren't news. Like, here's a little.
Go for it.
Here's a little pyro wisdom for you. No shade on any of my streamer friends or anything like that.
We know how the conversation go. We know how it go.
I'm being real. I've done basically everything everyone's doing here in public, live in front of people. You guys are second rate. You guys are 2-bit. Y'all have it a little bit more difficult in the sense that you have to learn how to be funny. You have to learn how to hit the marks. You have to learn how to do everything and hold an audience without actually having an audience. But without people there to actually react in person, so you know, like, you guys are slow as shit. Streamers in general, content creators in general, are slow as shit to noticing when audience ain't quite taking that. That's how you get so many fuck ups with like Vosh, Destiny, Anna Kasperi, like not Anna Kasperi, but like Vosh, Destinies, your Xanderhalls, your Shark Zeros, like, and you get the fuck ups where it's like you'll say some horrible dumb shit and then not realize that the audience is looking at you kind of funny, and that silence you see in chat, it's not the silence of like, oh, that's the lag. That's the silence of a comedy club going silent because the white comedian just said nigga in a southern accent, and they need to know if he's gonna finish that off with a joke about black people or a joke about the pea-headed Confederates who had to dress up in bed sheets, because one of those is funny and one of those is not. When it comes to the streamer community, especially those who talk about politics, they're 2-bit to actual news anchors. Actual news anchor fuck something up, fuck the capitalism, fuck that. Like, you'll know it because you'll have millions of people calling them out. Fucking any of these CNN motherfuckers fucks up, it's like they'll have motherfuckers call. If it's a big enough fuck up, they'll lose their job. Streamers, nah. It's you get to kind of wipe your own ass in that case.
You know what's so funny? I really mean this. Like, everybody in chat is gonna be like, "That's why you should have dropped it." I made a. How long was that video? How long is the cat in the cradle? I made a video in which I professed that exact same thought. It's in my title. That was part 1 of our conversation. You literally use the zombies. Use it slow. Like, that was the whole thing. Oh my god. Yeah, I gotta send it to you before I upload that.
I watched the first part
because that shit go hard and it's edited. Anyway, what I think also gets lost in translation is that a lot of people aren't pulling from real world experience because there's nothing to pull from that real world experience. I brought this up with FB once before. This kind of like necessary performance level inadequacy where like you have to talk about things because people want you to talk about them, which makes you say things that are disconnected from what you actually feel, and then that begins your rolling cycle. If there were more conversation starters and less conversation reactors, I feel like we would be in a better spot if we're gonna give a title to the so-called left politics streamer like ideology. I don't feel like a lot of people are real enough to like be vulnerable and say, damn, I learned something today. And that's kind of the standard that I'm trying to see set as far as how we communicate to one another. Because you know, half the drama, half the shit that people be talking about, half this shit is like not real. Half this shit is not real, made up. Like, I just only said it because somebody told me, look at how embarrassing this is. And people were like, they'll gift me 5 subs if I react to it. And it's like, as my wise man says, just smoke the weed, kids.
Well, it's not even that, because I don't think I think a lot of people who do this are pulling from some necessary life experiences. And it's kind of one that, like, when talking about the loneliness and depression epidemic, what you said, well, your disagreement with that, it clashes heavily with that. It clashes heavily with the established fact that we recognize that, like, most of American youth, like that, just to be simple, like us young folk, like, we're having a battle with depression. We're having a battle with loneliness. With loneliness and depression, there comes these social anxieties that, if we go on Twitter, it's the shit conservatives make fun of all the time. I think when you look at a group of people who, yeah, this is where most of your speakers are coming from. The advice rings true. When we talk about, you know, people bursting out of their social bubble of the social anxieties on the individual level, one of the actual very fucking good, you know, tools is like, yo, go in and react to the conversation. Like, listen for a bit and then react. It's not unreasonable that when we talk about, okay, how does this completely, like, you know, otherized group, like, they feel depressed and lonely and ostracized, how do they go out and make their voices heard, that they go out and react to the news? I think it, like all things that we develop as people, can be mangled and twisted to the point where it's not necessarily the best thing for certain issues. But I think it is a reasonable aspect. As a content creator, like, you know this as much as I do. Like, if you go in there with your own original ideas like that, congratulations. You are one voice in 8 billion people, approximately, like, which, like, 2.3 have access to the internet and shit. You're on a streaming site of, like, the numbers get staggering to the point where it's just, you're screaming into the void. You're screaming into the void. But so, like, I think there is an aspect of, like, that doesn't mean we give up, because that's not what I'm suggesting. You don't just give up. You scream fucking harder, motherfucker. You find a way to make your voice heard. If that's, and I don't necessarily believe it's like, you know, past, you know, you got to react to the shit. Because I think, like, at a point, drop it. At a point, drop it. That's my thing. Like, at a point, that's good enough. If you want to get into some shit and react alongside with everyone else, like, that's how shit goes. But at a point, you got to start finding your own voice and become the person that people are reacting to. You got to find something to say that's, like, not just going along with the crowd, not just waiting for the figurehead to say something.
And that's what I talked about, as you can see in my title earlier. Learn something instead of orbiting. Literally, learn something instead of orbiting. I just can't fathom. I can't fathom that, like, the algorithm is dominated by one person doing something and everybody splitting their reaction on it. Because I grew up, I was in the trenches with YouTube creators when the partner system opened up.
Why not? Why not? Hold up, why not?
Why not? Now that you gotta ask me that from either one of two perspectives. I can answer both, but I just want you to know there's two perspectives. You asking me the person or me the personality on the screen?
That's not a 2-part question, nigga. You the
For
same
me
person.
it is. Wait, no, you on my show. Don't try to take my energy. You know who I am. I said it's in 2 parts. I'm gonna leave it with 2 parts. Which one are you talking about?
Your show. This is your show. You know who you talking to. Nah, I'm talking to the same nigga. Answer the question.
Yeah, I love this shit. This shit feel like I'm back on the block, bro. Oh
Like,
my
just
god.
answer the fucking question. You're
gotta-
not about to, well, no, this is Pyro at work, and this is Pyro when he's sleeping. This is Pyro, and no, nigga, it's the same fucking nigga. It's just like a fucking fan. You just sections of yourself. Like, you like this fucking fan. Different sections, same thing, nigga. Don't pull that. This is a different me. No, it's not. It's not. When you turn off
watching
the
the
camera,
content. Oh, we got a
when
bot.
you turn
Hold
off
on.
the camera.
Yo, no funny shit. You could rewind the VOD. I literally said that before you got on. I literally said that word, that same sentence before you got on. You can check the VOD. Anyway, banning that. That was nice. Thank you for the promotion. I appreciate it. Hi, the best service for promoting your channel is screamskill.pro/en. Anyway, why not?
Why don't you find it plausible that when people get introduced to an event, whether it be by someone else, they feel so absolutely compelled to give their opinion on the event that they, when they do have the camera and the means like we do it on a fucking VOD? Why is that so unbelievable?
I meant something different. I'm sorry. I meant something
You're talking
different.
about in the content creation sense, right? When, like, you know, we're reacting to videos and then that catches on and then somehow the algorithm just pumps it out towards us and then we have a million reactions to the same like 30-second clip and it's just kind of bullshit.
Right. The literal like money aspect of it is
I'm not talking about the money aspect. I'm talking about the human aspect. When you break it down to the human aspect of like, yo, I heard this one itty bitty thing happen
and
then it travels.
I'm sorry, keep talking.
When it travels along the grapevine, that's what I'm talking about. Because like that's kind of what this is an allegory to. When we input the capitalism into it and like the money making aspect, it becomes this like nefarious ass plot where it's like, well, is it the evil corporations doing it, or is it our own hubris of like taking the human aspect? I want to look at that. Is it so ridiculous that we understand the algorithm is a thing, it pumps out certain stories, remove that when we do see these stories, people are just prone to putting their input, dumb, smart, whatever, have it.
Okay, that's why I think I responded with the two people. For me personally, I didn't grow up with that being.
Fuck you personally, nigga. I'm fucking with you. I want it. I just had to. I saw
because I didn't hear it in my head, and it sounded like a sound clip that something was playing, and I was like, "Yo, what did I press?" I was like, "Yo, what did I press?" No, I think
I sound like a sound clip.
I think it is absolutely plausible. My problem is just I never thought that it would become like the de facto standard. And I really mean this like from the bottom of my heart, like this is just me. When I started out here, when this space started out, when the partners were launching and everybody was doing their own thing, even Philip DeFranco has said this a bunch of times. This space didn't feel like we were producing shows for people to watch at a scheduled time, at a scheduled place. It really felt like, besides the Freds and the Smosh, you know, the creators that reached out to networks and got like deals and shit, a lot of the growing creators, a lot of the people that struck it big with a viral video, struck it Schmoyo, all those people, it felt like they were seeing a real world event and either choosing to talk about it or choosing to just do something completely different, like draw art, whatever. And those were the channels that grew. And then, I mean, this is all documented. And then kind of the rise of the boot gang era and like the prank era. And then like it started, you know, oh my God, I can't believe this person did this. Sniper Wolf is like the biggest example of this right now. To me, I understand the churning of reaction content to generate revenue. And I also understand people wanting to get their takes, their identity, they want to follow somebody. This isn't the era anymore of like, I ingest content surrounding the things I like. They surround themselves with content creators and they like the content creators and they talk about what the content creators want to talk about because that's the dominant topic. They've latched on to the large creators. They've latched on to the let's say the algorithm. They've latched on to it. And like, I don't want to know about everything that happened on the internet by watching the original 1 hour and 30-minute debate. I'll watch Hasanabi's channel because I know he's covered probably every internet story. While I understand that, and that's the natural way media honestly should go, because it's always going to get concentrated the same way capitalism concentrates. For me personally, maybe I gave up at the wrong time, but like, ain't no more hot damn I rocks. You feel me? Like, ain't no more. And there are out there. And this is shout out to like corporate business, like shout out to all them. There are people like doing the thing. Don't get me wrong there. But like they used to literally be the emulation standard. It was so talked about that like people would make essays and documentaries on like how they influence a generation. Mr. Beast's influence is to what end? You're a better editor? You're doing the most craziest thing? What does it lead to? So to drag it all the way back to men and the idea of how we talk about, that's why I was like, yo, you'd be the perfect person to talk about. Because for me personally, I've watched this shit grow. Like I've seen and been in the room with creators before they had their first 1,000 sitting at 10 mil right now. And I remember these conversations literally plaguing us. What will this become? Where does this go? And now, of course, there's a gap in the conversations about male feelings and males' males' emotions. That's not popular. Mr. Beast don't take 5 minutes out of a thing to be like, here's some of the things I feel about when I make these videos. He go on a podcast. You gotta watch the podcast. Go ahead.
Can I answer a question you asked that like spurred this whole line of thought?
Yeah. Go ahead.
You asked me like because like do I think like content creators like what do I think like they're in it for? Something along those lines.
Yeah.
I think I have an answer. I think I have a better answer understanding the way you think about it.
Go.
Again, I do agree with you on head. We all strive for a purpose. Whatever society gives us, whatever your parents tell you how life is supposed to be. And
Can I do you just one solid favor, just so you don't have to feel so disgusting when you say that? It's okay that Shuon Head brings up like the obvious points that we would all agree with. It's the
wait, time out. I don't feel disgusting. That's one of the things about me, and it's one of the reasons. Let me just say, it's like I don't give a fuck if I say like, yeah, the broken clock is right on that.
Okay, yeah, you're good. Then you good. Yeah, you good. Yeah.
Like she's right about the fact that like men feel like they don't have a purpose, and she's right on that. Like men's purpose with like patriarchy and rapid advancement and like the rights of women and like looking at their autonomy as they are, like it's removing the purpose that the patriarchy has built for men. We got to struggle with that. Big deal. Get over it. Cool. Like my thing is to answer Paradigm's question is like, yeah, I think when it comes to the purpose aspect, I don't think that's just a man thing. I think that's something we all need a purpose in capitalism. I think a lot of content creators, what they want is to become, in a metaphorical sense, what I am literally sitting in right now. They want to be the nigga with the fancy chair sitting in a room surrounded by light with a large audience, talking wisdom and having people listen. And I'll tell you why. It's because those are the people we remember, especially when they meet all of the standards set by our flawed society to be remembered. Who do we remember in the history books? There's an old nigga by the name of Aristotle that has died like, several thousand years ago that we still remember. People want to be remembered because the fatality and mortality of all living beings on this planet scares the ever-living bejeebus out of us as just people. Like, the idea of thinking about death and what comes after is terrifying, so a lot of people want to hold on to what they have in the mortal life, realizing that things are going to decay and that things are just going to die. What doesn't really die? Ideas. Cool. These people want to have the best ideas. They want to be thought leaders. It's why you see so many of them taking up like the same, aesthetics and shit. They see what's popular, they want to ride the wave and try and be the most popular there. And then eventually you see the stall out. Vosh is one where I really like watching the stall out because it's like you trap yourself in a fortress arc because you were engaged in dealing with the people you tried to emulate, mainly Destiny. And now it's kind of biting you in the ass. You're not dying, but you yourself has admitted that your channel growth is, kind of like falling off over the last couple of years. Like your personal fucking Reddit is like full of complaints about how you don't do the old shit anymore. People want to see a certain thing. You're not living up to the certain thing. Cool, man. You do you. You do you. I hope the channel succeeds. I don't really give a fuck. But I think there is that bit of purpose where it's like, if you break it down and you tell them to remove like that aspect of life, what do they have left when it comes to like the purpose? Because a lot of this in the capitalistic mindset, I'm a firm believer that if you make something you enjoy your job, you're just not going to enjoy it anymore. So like there has to be the loss of enjoyment from when this started to now when they're all big, where it's like, you're keeping this up because you need the money, that's just capitalism, but why else? Why are you saying such dumb shit and then holding on to it so long when it's just so easy to be like, yo man, I was wrong, I didn't read so-and-so book.
Nah, you're killing me. No, I'm sorry, bro. As much as I want to let you have that, on my mother, on my cats, bro, on my cats. If you go back in this VOD, that's literally the whole point of today's episode, is that sentence right there.
I'm gonna tell you right now, you can say that's the whole point. I'll watch it when it comes out. Don't tell me what the point is. Let me come to it. That is the mark of a good artist.
It's just that sentence. It's like, because, you know, for me, a lot of the time, and I think you felt this, and that's why you came to me that first time. That's why you came to me that first time. A lot of it feels like sometimes, even though my audience is growing, even though I got more people here, it still feels like maybe I'm bullshitting my way through certain things. You know that? You always get that imposter syndrome. Maybe I'm not as accurate as I thought I was. So whenever I hear somebody else say like the thing, it's like, yo, like, yes, keep going. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
See, now I lost my train of thought.
That's what you get. That's what you get for being on the show. Gotta get used to it.
That's what I get for being on the show, not being able to finish a thought. Damn, I'm gonna have to rethink my options then.
ADHD. We got 84K in this bitch.
That don't mean you don't. Let me stop. Let me not.
No,
I'm about to say some dumb shit.
Don't worry about it.
That doesn't mean you can't be in a man. Let me stop.
It's the ego killer. And I don't know what it is that, like, and that's kind of the core question that I'm trying to ask with this stream alone. And I think that's what you were saying.
Why are people so afraid to admit that they're wrong?
Yes.
I'll tell you why.
Please.
I'll tell you why. I'm gonna use some ableist language, but it is for the answer.
We trust you.
It's because in the American society, no matter how leftist and how progressive people want to seem, if you are wrong, you are a degenerate. If you are wrong on an important topic, you are the R slur. You are lesser than. You are seen as behind. You are seen as either someone who needs help or someone who needs to be prevented. Take example, let's take a serious topic. I don't want to joke about this. I want people to actually understand. Let's take black women's issues. I've seen it happen multiple times. We recognize, answer yes or no, we recognize that the society built today in 2023 has a unique hatred towards black people, yes or no?
Yeah.
We recognize that the society built in our Lord and Savior 2023, with its unique hatred towards black people, has an even more unique hatred towards black women specifically.
Absolutely.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Cool. Do you agree that because of these two factors, it is viewed the way we have viewed and interacted with black women for generations? I can't even put a year number on it, but generations?
Yes.
Cool. So, if you understand that, and this one is not a yes or no question,
right?
If you can understand that, why is it a surprise that so many people have the wrong opinion? And we look at feminist literature, we look at black women writing, they're not the ones with the fucking, band hammer telling everyone, you need to conform, you need to listen to us or get the fuck. They're gentle. They are so fucking gentle when you actually read the words of Bell. When you actually read some of these women, they are so fucking gentle in how they lay it out, fucking Barney style. It is ridiculous. People get it wrong. We understand that. When we tell people they're wrong because we've read something else, how come the approach is so heavy-handed?
I've talked about this. I can answer that question actually. Because and I don't know where this is the key to why I don't understand how, and that's why I was saying earlier, I don't understand how debate bros got this power. The approach is because they feel like, why didn't you ever ask why? Like, it straight up makes people think about their history as a person. And they'll sit there in front of you and ask, why have you never thought about this? It's taken me 5 minutes to Google or 30 seconds to Google the answer to this question. You mean this thought never popped up in your head? We were reading a story earlier about a white dude who's dating a black girl. And he told her, why are you wearing a bonnet? You should wear a baseball cap. You look unkempt as you go outside. And it's like, I think that a lot of people always have been hyper online and or hyper within.
No. It's not just online.
Now, let me finish the sentence.
Oh,
yeah.
There you go.
Finish the sentence.
Go ahead.
And it's not just that. It's hyper within their communities being forced to know certain things due to their proximity to events. Like, to be honest with you, let's just say it out in the open. Like, I was aware of what coke and crack cocaine was at an early age because of my dad. So I get offended, not literally, but like I get offended when you don't understand like that the CIA implanted crack in the hood in the 70s. Because everybody talk about that. That's the running meme. That's the joke. Doesn't your guy talk about that? Doesn't your person talk about that? Like, where is and I think a lot of people expect that gap to be filled so fast because there's no way you haven't run into a person to say this to before me. Everybody thinks that they're the one. They're the one person who is the bridge that like, yo, why are you coming to me? There wasn't 6 niggas before me. And it's like,
so I want to stop you right there because I got a question to ask. I'm being petty right now.
Go ahead, rock it.
Tyrant. Cool. So saying what you just said about how everyone, gets upset and they point out how people are wrong because they think they are the one. You understand why I take issue with like the tribal chief aspect of the paradigm shift? Recognizing that everyone kind of does that when they meet a nigga who is just wrong or uninformed or they don't know something that we all think. It's just common knowledge. It's common knowledge that like, they slaughtered surrendering black troops in the Civil War. It's common knowledge. Oh, no, it's not. Yeah, but I know it. But I'm also a nigga that went to college for Civil War history specifically. You got to take that into consideration. Like, I love what you vibing with. I just wanted to be petty in that. Because that is one of the things that is the reason I came to you. It's not because I felt anything you were laying down. It's because the tribal chief aspect, when I watched that panel with you and Eli Monty.
Yeah. We talked about that. Matter of fact, that is the video. I'll link that to you as well. That's the one called The Cats in the Cradle that made me go on that rant. That is why I was saying, yo.
I watched that one and then Uses Zombies. I did watch that one full part. I agree with a lot of it.
Right.
A lot of it.
It's so to me, for me and my tribal chief gimmick, it's specifically to recognize that, and basically I'm running, I don't know how to say this in a way that's not like nerdy.
Be nerdy.
I think
I'm not gonna ask you a
that
question.
a lot of the problems that exist with everything that we've talked about is that nobody wants to be the one reacted to. They want everybody to see their reaction. And I feel like if I can gravitate more and more, which I've been doing, obviously you, Globist, etc., if I can gravitate more people to the idea of being a conversation starter rather than a conversation follow-up, then we have
a conversation ender.
Right, yeah, anyway, yeah. So that's why I took that's why what you had said to me recoiled in my head, and it's been recoiling since, because to me, it was the same thing Josie said, where as in when you do the gimmick or when you are the person, do you know that everybody in this chat, in this group, everyone who's watching you has the understanding that you have of what's happening? Do they have the understanding of the 2-year subscribers? Do they have the understand? Because if you only have 7 people who get it and you get launched into a large ass audience, what does that come off as? It was her main point. And for me personally, well, I've already made my adjustment, and I know you know that because we're literally talking about it now. It was just never a question that was posed to me, because as people started coming in slowly, they were naturally getting ingratiated, and I think that was because the growth is slow. Now that it's starting to pick up, it's time for me to reconnect with, like, and that's what I was doing today. It's time for me to reconnect and go back to form. I'm tired of asking why. Now I'm asking how. Does that make sense? There's no big paragraph there. It's just that. Like, and I think yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think why is a good question, because then we get to the how. I like the why question, and I will admit it is a bit of a you wanted to complain about getting nerdy. I'm gonna get nerdy. You've watched Adventure Time, right?
Of course.
You remember spoiler for like a 10-year-old cartoon, you
over.
guys.
Yeah, it's for you.
Spoilers.
It's curtains.
Yeah, but like you remember the Ice King and how they explained his crown, how like it's this ever-changing maze?
Yes.
That's the question why. Because there are a lot of things that you can ask the question why about. Mm-hmm. Like, one of the things I was gonna ask why about, like, one of your chatters, Alina, was like, you didn't ask for love and respect though. And one of the questions I desperately have, and maybe we can have this conversation if you're up, but like I really want to have is like, why do people expect that? Like we know human history. We know it's like a lot of horrible shit. Why do people in the modern age expect like the best of the best? In the modern age, when we got our cities and shit, like last, like, I don't know, 4,000, when we're not dealing with like the troubles of an ice age and the mammoth and like the saber-toothed tiger, why do people expect just like the bare compassion when it's been demonstrated time and time again? Like, you probably gonna get fucked over. You probably gonna get fucked over,
you know
if
why?
The stakes are high enough.
You want to know why? And this, I think, is a beautiful way to wrap right back into the male thing. Because, and to be honest with you, throughout all the mud, I think a few people have found people that demonstrate that compassion, and now they're questioning why isn't the rest of the world like that? Which brings us back to that first point you brought up. But that's my question. Because, like, I understand the hope, meeting someone, meeting a group of people, having your community, and knowing that there could be better. For me, a lot of the stalls when it comes to progress, a lot of like the infighting we get into. I'm sorry.
You good?
Just sharp. I gotta re-roll. Anyway, continue.
Fair. Like, I think a lot of the questions get stalled, and like people are immediately jumping into the how without examining the why, and then the why comes back to bite you in the ass. How do we solve, the impending trans genocide? Well, everyone's got their, answers to how we do this, but then you don't look at the question of like, well, why are we in this situation in the first place? You don't go back, look at the literature, look at the historical events, look at the people who like were fighting for this originally and what they were saying and the shit that they called out that's happening now. Like, why has been answered by people of the past. And again, when we're talking about these creator content spaces, people who just want to be thought leaders and shit, they don't do that. They're not looking at the why in an extent. Why do we feel the need to like, act like everyone's gonna be lovey-dovey and shit? Well, there is an answer for that, biological and like just emotional, and it's too fucking long to get into. It boils down to the fact that like when we were at our most desperate, we helped each other. Like, we know that like the better solution to any trouble is helping one another, and yada 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 yada. Just like empirically, like finding Neanderthals with like mended broken bones shows that we didn't just leave them to die and for food for the saber-tooth so we could get away. We helped one another and it made us stronger. We can answer that question. That's why I want to get into. So it becomes not a why, but like, I love how you phrased it, but a how. Understanding that, cool, that's why we should feel. How do we get back to that? Then the hows become, easier, but like, we got to cross a few things. Obviously, we're not going to try and take humanity back to that point in time where we had to worry about just like going outside. No one wants to fucking do that. How do we get back to like care? That's why I approach it like this, because it's like, cool, I'm willing to hear your answer how, but you got to tell me why you think this is a good solution to the problem. And then if we need to go back and address the problem, we'll do it.
Sounds like we are in need of a paradigm shift. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of this YouTube video. We might continue talking, but you will have to tune in at twitch.tv/the_paradigm_shift to see the rest of it. And I'll see you.